when I talk about pins, these are the little metal pins. Internally, each one of these pins, let's see, it might be easier up here. Internally, each one of these pins will be physically connected to like the edges of this chip all around. Okay?
Are those the thin lines on the top and bottom of the circle?
Yes. Yeah, you can actually see them there. That's correct. Those little thin lines those are the actual physical wires connecting the chip in here to the external pins.
Is that a 40-pin chip?
Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. It's a 28-pin chip. I think I have another one, yeah. This one might be a 40-pin chip.
Motorola.
This is actually a 68,000 microprocessor. So it was internally 32 bits, but externally 16 bits.
What's the clock on it?
I think it could do like 10 megahertz. There's the EEPROM, and just pass it around like you do the homework.
Holy shit, that's
are big, right? I mean, if you're gonna have something that's plugged into something, you can't have pins that are thin as a hair because then they're just gonna break. I mean, they already can break pretty easily.
What was this one again?
That was a 68,000, Motorola 68,000.
Is it also
No, it's a microprocessor.
Okay, this is a microprocessor.
Yeah, that's a complete microprocessor. And it clocked at like 10 megabits. Alright? So this one, now you can see that the little wires have been damaged on this one because I passed it around enough that they've gotten broken.
oof.
But that's okay, I mean, I do that. I mean, I have
I got
more,
roughed up.
right? So if I need an 8-bit adder subtractor, actually, this one has 2 8-bit adder subtractors on it. This was my first VLSI class in grad school. So the little square there is my 8-bit adder subtractor.
You built
And
that?
I did. I'm going to show you on the slides momentarily. And then the other one is my lab partner's 8-bit adder subtractor.
Which
So it was
one's-
a little larger, but they both work.
Which one's yours?
The small one.
Okay.
Yeah. The little tiny square. But
Sure
you can
it
see
is.
both of them.
Sure it is.
Wow, this dock cam is really pretty good. Not super focused right now, I guess. Anyway, you can see where the wires should connect to the external part of the chip. Okay. So I'll pass this around. You wanted to look at. But that's an 8-bit adder subtractor, 2 of them.
Out of curiosity, if I guess adder's so small, why is the chip so big? Like, what's in this behind this purple part?
Behind that, there's nothing. The whole adder subtractor is that little piece in the middle.
Wow.
Well, both adder subtractors. Now there's only one set of inputs. So you got 8 A inputs, 8 B inputs. They're going to both adders and subtractors. And then I think there's 2 sets of answers. You know, get an answer from each one. But remember, I mean, that's what, 16 pins plus the answer is another 8 pins. I don't remember if there's a carry out or not. So I mean, that's already 24 pins, and that's probably a 28 or 30 pin chip. Yeah.
On the silicon wafers, why is one side reflective and one side matte?
Because the side that's super smooth is the side where they actually build the chip.
Okay.
You can't flip it over and build it on both sides. Okay. Now the way they make those wafers is kind of like making rock candy. Maybe you remember from like 2nd grade or something, where you boil some sugar and you put a little string in there, and then you let it cool. Let's see. I believe that's a you can't see much on that one. It was 0.5 microns, so it was 4 times smaller in terms of the technology than the other one. Let's see. Are these? with a 0. And it's off with a 1. Okay? The N transistor is on with a 1. And you guessed it, it's off with a 0. Okay? And that's all you need to know to decode all the CMOS. Because in here, of course, we're not going to calculate the currents and voltages and you know, rise times and fall times and all the double E stuff. We're just going to look at it as very simple. We have an N transistor and a P transistor. And this is on with a 0 and off with a 1. And this is on with a 1 and off with a 0. So if you memorize just one of them, then you know the other is the opposite. So let's see what happens. So if this is an inverter, by the way. So if I put in a 0, then the P transistors turn on, the N transistors turned off. So the output is 5 volts. Okay? If I put in a 1, then this one is off and this one is on. So the output is 0. Which is good, that's an inverter, right? I put in a 1, I get out a 0. I put in a 0, I get out a 1. So if I put in a 0, then the path is from here to out. If I put in a 1, the path is from here to out. And this is ground or 0, and that's 5. That's high and low. High, low. We don't even really care about what the values are. It's high and low. Okay? So I put in a high. Then this one is on, so the output is low. This one is off. And notice you don't want them both on at the same time, which won't happen if they're connected like this. They'll never be both on at the same time. Because if I have a high, well, I shouldn't say never. I'll explain that in a second. If I have a high, this one's on, now it's off. If I have a low, then this one's on, now it's off. Okay? Now I shouldn't say never because when you go from low to high, we haven't yet invented the instantaneous transition. So there's actually some physical time between low and high. It's small, but there's some time there. And so during this transition, there's a short period of time when they're both on. Okay? And so during that time, you get this current that flows. And that's why it uses power at all. Like if we didn't have this current there that flows when they're transitioning, as one's going on, the other's going off, there's this short window of time, very small, where you get some current flow there. Okay? And then I mentioned the capacitance. That's another small factor in the current, but this will have a little capacitance, this will have a little capacitance, and these have to charge and discharge. So those two mechanisms, the capacitance and the fact that there's a short period of time when both of these are on, are what contributes to power usage. So CMOS, when it's not changing, is not using any appreciable power. That's why you have a watch that's a CMOS watch with a little battery that lasts for years and years and years. Because that watch is changing very slow. I mean, what, every 60th of a second or whatever, or every 100th of a second. That'd be 100 hertz. That's pretty slow. I mean, we're talking like, nanoamps when these change. Fractions of a nanoamp when that changes. So, take a nanoamp, multiply by 100, it takes a long time to even get to an amp. So the point is that CMOS is low power. That's the main advantage of CMOS, is that it's low power. Okay? Now the thing with CMOS is that it is complementary. So for every N transistor, there's a P transistor. So in an inverter, there's only one input, right? I mean, you have an input, you have an output. But now we go to like a NAND gate. Let's see. So there's one P transistor, that's the A input. Here's another P transistor, that's the B input. Okay? And then they're connected down here to the N transistors. So there's B, and there's A. Okay? And this is the output. So now, let's look at how this gate works. Okay, now, I think we went over with just using two transistors. You can make an AND gate with two transistors, but not a CMOS gate. Because the beauty of CMOS is that no matter whether the output's high or low, it's not using power. It's only using power when you switch. So let's say this input is 0 and this input is 0. Well, then that's off and that's off. That's on and that's on. So if both inputs are 0, then the outputs are 1. Okay. All right. Well, let's say this is 0 and this is 1. Well, that one's off. So you can kind of think of it like I have to cross 2 bridges to get to the other side. If one bridge is up, I can't cross. Right? So if this is off, I can't get through. If this one doesn't matter. And of course, the reverse is also true. Right? If this one's on but that one's off, I still can't get across. I mean, in order to cross the river, I have to cross 2 bridges in series, and so both of them have to be on for me to cross. So whether this is a 1-0 or 0-1, in both cases, both of these are off. In both cases, I cannot get from here to ground. Now at the same time, if this is a 1 and that's a 0, this one's off, but that one's on. So output is high. Right? And if it's the reverse, where that's a 1 and that's a 0, well now this one's on. So I have a path here or there too as well, so output is high. So the only time that the output is low is if both of these, not both 0, if both of these are 1. If that's a 1 and that's a 1, then both of these are on, and I can get from output to low, and at the same time, both of these are off. Okay, so if they're both 1s, then I have a 0 output. So that's my NAND gate with CMOS. Okay, this N transistor, P transistor, P transistor, and that stands for negative and positive, by the way, in case you're wondering. Okay. So on here, on the slides, the inverter, for P transistor, it's orange. N transistor is green. Okay. Blue is metal. Any place you see an X like that means there's some kind of connection. Like I'm connecting the orange to the blue. Right? So I'm connecting the P transistor, the bottom of the P transistor, to the metal here. That's the output. So any place there's an X, there's a connection. Here there's no connection. There's no direct physical connection between the red and the green, nor the red and the orange. Okay. And what the red is the gate. The red is actually this part right here. That's the red. Okay. Same thing for the P transistor. Oh, and by the way, this little circle, all that means is that it's a P transistor. It's not inverting something or whatever. It's just as a symbol. If it has a circle, it's P. If it doesn't have a circle, it's N. So looking at this one, I have an input here. If the input's high, then this transistor is off. So there's no path from power to the output. And at the same time, this one is on. So I have a path from the output to ground. So if this is high, this is low. If this is low, then this one is on. So I go from here to the output. And this one is off, so there's no path for the output to get to ground. And that's the inverter.
This is very confusing.
Yeah, this is super
This is extremely confusing.
I don't know what the heck.
Well, this is a transistor
What
right
colors
there.
did you get?
That's the N transistor. This is the P transistor.
Yeah.
Okay. This right here is this.
Okay.
This red, which is connected to the input through this X here. This red is that part, okay? And then that's just cross. I mean, you just think of it as this to there. That part is here. So there's the VDD. There's the red is controlling it. The red is basically controlling it and turning it on or off. So it's actually turning it on or off with voltage. There's no current that flows through here. Okay. So what's still confusing?
What's VDD? What was that?
Oh, VDD is just power, 5 volts.
Okay.
Yeah, so VDD is power, that's ground.
Okay.
So this is just a transistor. When you go from here to, oops, when you go from here to, okay, get to, when you go from here to here, right, that's just going from there to there. And this one, when you go from here to there, that's just going from there to there. Okay. Remember, this is the inverter. So this just has 2 transistors. This one is the NAND gate. So I have the 2 P transistors in parallel up here, okay? And then I have the 2 N transistors in series down here. So this is one N transistor and this is the other one. Now this diagram represents the actual physical layout. Like this is physically how it looks on the chip. Okay? As on in order for something to get from here to there. Okay, so I didn't have to build another connector in between. You can just use 2 gates and have 2 N transistors in series. Okay. All right. There's a few more slides. Let me get through those real quick. We'll come back to the transmission gate. Well, I'm not gonna go through the logic of all this. Here's an XOR gate. Yeah, no, I'm gonna sit here and step through the logic. Okay, but I think I used for this XOR gate I used 2 NAND gates and 2 transmission gates, or actually maybe I used 4 transmission gates. I don't know, but just take on faith that this is an XOR gate. Okay, and here's an actual picture of the chip. So this is an actual picture through a microscope of the adder that I'm passing around, because this was on that adder. So you notice here, everything's all perfectly straight, squared off, and then in real life it's not. It's kind of rounded. Okay. So there's design rules. You can't put 2 wires too close to each other, because in manufacturing, sometimes they may bleed into another, and of course then it doesn't work. You can't have 2 inputs touching or 2 outputs touching. It's not going to work. Right? So there's an XOR gate. There's another one up here too, flipped over. So now, here's a 1-bit adder subtractor right there.
Go back a little bit.
Well, Jesus.
Go back here.
Yeah, it looks a lot better.
Yeah, well that's an actual picture. I had to use film for that. It's not like today where you can put the digital there and look at it. I had to take a bunch of pictures with film, get it developed, hope it came out. So fortunately it did. So this right here is a 1-bit adder subtractor that we've seen in class. It's the layout, not the logic, right? Okay.
And is
But-
that other one a 2-bit adder subtractor?
That's correct. So once I got this to work through simulation, then I just cut and pasted and made more. Okay, and this is actually a mirror image, so that I can connect the 2 power wires together on this side and ground wires together on that side. Okay, and so now here's 8 of them, and then all I had to do is connect the carry outs to the carry ins of the next stage. All right, and then these are power and ground. The big thick blue is the power and ground. And then here's the picture of it. And that's on the chip that I'm passing around. This is the actual picture. I don't know if it's that specific chip, okay, because I have several adders, but it's the actual adder that I made. Picture of it on the chip.
Do they still use that, the squares and the lines and stuff in modern day chip design?
Yeah. Now again, most of the time you're going to write equations to do what you want to do. So there's my 8-bit adder, kind of zoomed out a little bit. There it is that's the full design that was sent to the company. So there's my lab partner's 8-bit adder subtractor. There's my 8-bit adder subtractor. Okay, and then all these look like thick blue lines, but really they're individual wires to go to all the inputs and stuff. The inputs and outputs and so on. And the chip was a square chip with, well, the actual external chip doesn't matter. The chip itself, as you can see, is just a square like this. And there's a picture of it. Yeah.
So, I guess for your design, most on the company's part, were they able to just scan that, or did they have to zoom in and?
No. For the company's part, we just FTP'd them a file. The CAD software would output a file in a specific format.
Okay.
And then they would just take the file and put it in their machine and press the red button. And
And then
12 hours later?
yeah,
CAD files.
the CAD file is that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the CAD file. Right? The other picture is the actual picture of the chip that I passed around. So that's what it looks like in the CAD file. And yeah, in the CAD file, you can zoom in, zoom out, it was pretty cool. And that was like 20 years ago. And so I'm sure the CAD tools are better now, but that's an actual picture of it. With the wires connected before they got plugged, you can see the wires. All right, did you want your exam